He was just an apprentice, and everyone on Red Ridge thought he would stay that way. The small frontier planet had dangerous forests and wild creatures that made even trained hunters nervous. Yet, Evan Brooks moved quietly, watching, listening, and learning. He was not strong or fast, not compared to the older hunters, but he had patience, and patience on Red Ridge was worth more than strength. Evan lived on the edge of the main colony with his mentor, Linda Harper. Linda was old, but sharp. A woman who had survived more storms and predator attacks than most people could imagine. She ran the survival training programs for young apprentices, and she saw potential in Evan that others ignored, while the other trainees rushed into dangerous forests, trying to prove themselves with weapons or loud movements. Evan watched shadows, smelled the wind, and noticed the small details: a broken branch, the scent of a predator, a disturbed patch of earth. It all told him stories. "You're too careful," one of the trainees said once. His name was Dylan, a tall boy with messy hair and a loud voice. "You will never survive if you don't act fast." Evan just shrugged. He did not argue. He preferred to think before moving. That had kept him alive more than once. Linda called him aside one afternoon after a training session. "Evan," she said, "you notice things others do not. That is rare. Keep it that way. Patience will save your life before speed ever will." Evan nodded, though he felt small next to her. He was only 17, and he knew he was still learning. He wanted to be stronger, braver, more useful, but he also wanted to survive, and he was beginning to understand that survival came from more than courage. It came from understanding. The colony lived in small, spread-out settlements, and Red Ridge was notorious for its wildlife. The most feared creatures were night talons, massive predators that hunted in packs. Even veteran hunters avoided certain parts of the forest, where night talons made their dens. Stories told of humans being killed instantly if they were not careful. For Evan, these stories were not enough to scare him. They were lessons. Warnings to be remembered. One evening, the colony's alert system went off. A message came from a nearby outpost. Something unusual had been sighted in the outer valleys. It was bigger than night talons, and it moved faster than anything anyone had seen. The message was short, but it spread fear. The apprentices were terrified. Some refused to leave their quarters. The older hunters, the ones who thought they had seen everything, whispered nervously. Evan listened to the message and felt something unfamiliar: curiosity. Fear was there, yes, but it was smaller than the need to understand. He wanted to see this creature, to study it, and perhaps to survive it. He went to Linda. "I want to go," he said simply. Linda's eyes widened. "You want to go into the outer valleys?" "Evan, that is dangerous. You are still learning. You are just an apprentice." "I know," Evan said, "but I think I can help. I can track it. I can watch it." Linda studied him for a long moment. She had trained him, and she had seen the way he moved through the forest, the way he noticed small signs no one else did. She knew he had talent, more than the other trainees, but she also knew the valleys were dangerous. "If you go," she said finally, "you will not go alone. You will be with a team, and you will listen to them. But I believe you can do it. You have to trust yourself." Evan nodded again. He felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. For the first time, he was leaving the familiar parts of Red Ridge to face something unknown. He had trained for this, but he had never been tested in real danger. The next morning, Evan met the scouting team. It included Rob Jacobs, a rough and experienced ranger, Claire Dawson, a young communications technician who had a talent for analyzing signals, and a few other scouts. The team looked at him with surprise. He was smaller, younger, and clearly inexperienced compared to them. Some of the veterans whispered, "What can he do?" Evan said nothing. He did not need to. He let his eyes scan the forest around them, reading the trees, the wind, The signs that others ignored, they moved through the lower valleys first. The sun was low, and shadows stretched long between twisted trees. Evan noticed small things immediately. A patch of crushed grass, the faint scent of something larger than any animal he had smelled before. A broken branch that looked recent. "Slow down," Evan said quietly. Rob stopped abruptly. "What is it, kid?" he asked. Not unkindly, though his tone carried skepticism. "Something moved here," Evan said. "Recently. And it is big. Bigger than a night talon." Rob frowned. He looked at the tracks and realized Evan was right. The footprints were enormous. The ground was pressed deeply, and claw marks were sharper and longer than night talon prints. "You're sure?" Rob asked, his voice low. Evan nodded. "I think so. It moves carefully. It is smart." Claire checked her scanner. The readings were strange. Nothing matched the patterns she had in her database. Even the signals from the area were irregular. It was as if the creature itself altered the environment, moving in ways the sensors could not fully detect. The team moved cautiously. Evan led quietly, pointing out small signs others might miss. A broken twig here. A bent leaf there. He felt the presence of something large watching them, something intelligent. Hours passed. The sun sank lower, and the team reached a narrow ridge. Evan paused. The ridge was dangerous, full of loose rocks and sudden drops. Other scouts would have avoided it. But Evan noticed the safe spots, where footing was stable, where a predator could not easily ambush them. He guided the team carefully. "You know these paths well," Rob said, surprised. "I watch," Evan said. "I listen. The forest tells you where to go if you pay attention." As evening came, they set up a small camp. Evan gathered firewood quietly, choosing dry branches from hidden piles, so smoke would not reveal their location. Claire monitored the sensors, while Rob kept a watch. Evan could feel the creature nearby. He did not see it, but he felt its presence, like a ripple in the air. That night, the forest was alive with sounds. Distant roars echoed, leaves rustled in the wind, and small creatures scuttled through underbrush. Evan stayed alert. He noticed something strange. The night talons, usually active at this hour, were silent. Not a single pack moved nearby. "They sense it," Evan whispered to Claire. "Sense what?" she asked. "The big one. Whatever we are tracking. Night talons fear it." Claire looked worried. Rob stiffened. The reality of Evan's words sank in. Even the forest's predators were afraid of what they were hunting. Evan did not sleep much that night. He thought about the creature, about the signs it left, about how it moved. He realized he was not just tracking it for survival. He was learning it, understanding it. When morning came, the team moved again. They followed broken branches, deep tracks, and subtle changes in the air. Evan led confidently. Each time the team encountered danger, Evan was the first to notice, the first to react. He avoided traps, guided the team around unstable ground, and warned them of hidden cliffs. The apprentices back at the colony had never seen him like this. The quiet boy, the one who always stayed behind, had become the guide, the one everyone now depended on. Even Rob, the veteran, started to respect him, seeing that his instincts were sharper than his own. As they reached the edge of the outer valleys, the ground grew rougher, the cliffs higher, the trees twisted and dark. Evan paused again, feeling the forest change. The air was heavier, filled with tension. He could sense the creature closer now. "We are close," Evan said softly. Rob nodded, and Claire checked her instruments again. The forest seemed to grow silent around them. No birds, no small animals, not even wind in the leaves. It was as if the valley itself held its breath. Evan took a deep breath. He had trained for this moment in small ways, every day. But he knew this was the real test. Not a lesson from Linda. Not a simulation. not a simple predator. This was the unknown. And yet, he felt calm. He felt ready. The outer valleys of Red Ridge waited. A presence larger than anything they had faced stirred among the rocks and trees. And Evan, the quiet apprentice, was the first to notice it. He did not yet know what would happen next. He only knew that he had to move carefully, think clearly, and trust what he had learned. And so, the story of Evan Brooks, the apprentice who others underestimated, began in earnest. As he stepped further into the wilds of Red Ridge, where danger waited and only patience and observation could keep a human alive, Evan led the team carefully through the outer valleys. Every step was measured, every movement quiet. The forest around them felt different now. The trees were taller, darker, and twisted in strange shapes. Sunlight barely reached the ground. Moss covered the rocks and fallen branches. The air was heavy, NSAI, carrying smells that Evan could barely identify. Something in the valley was watching them. Rob moved beside him, his hand on the hilt of his knife. He was a veteran, but even he seemed tense. Claire followed, scanning with her small, portable device. The readings were unusual. The air carried subtle vibrations, sounds beneath the normal hearing range, patterns in the wind, and shifts in temperature. Claire had never seen anything like it. "I don't like this," Rob muttered. "It's too quiet." Evan nodded, his eyes moving constantly. "Quiet doesn't mean safe. It means we are being watched. And whatever is out there is smarter than normal predators." The team moved on. The tracks became clearer. Huge claw marks pressed into the soft soil. Crushed plants lay scattered, as if something massive had stepped carefully but forcefully. The ground itself seemed disturbed in strange ways, uneven and broken in patterns that did not make sense. Evan crouched to study them. "Look here," he said. "It moves carefully, but it leaves heavy prints. It thinks about every step. It does not rush. It watches before acting." Rob crouched beside him. "That is unusual. Even the biggest predators don't do this. They attack, they hunt, they don't plan so carefully." Evan nodded. "This is not just a predator. It is intelligent. It knows we are here. And it is waiting." They continued deeper into the forest. Shadows grew longer, and the sunlight dimmed. Small animals were gone. No birds sang. Even the insects seemed silent. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, Claire stopped. "I am reading something unusual," she said. "Energy readings. Low, but moving, like a pattern. I can't identify it." Evan crouched to the ground again. "Look at the leaves here. They are bent, broken in strange ways. It is moving through the forest carefully, leaving little trace." Rob looked at him with surprise. "You really see this?" Evan nodded. "Yes. I can feel its path. Follow the subtle changes in the forest. It is not hiding from us. It is observing us, waiting for the right moment." They moved slowly, each step deliberate. Evan led them through narrow paths, across small streams, and over broken rocks. He avoided areas where the ground was loose or unstable. Every so often, he would pause, tilt his head, and notice a change in the wind or the smell. These small signs told him where the creature had been and where it might move next. Hours passed. The sun sank lower, and shadows merged into the dark. They set up a small camp near a stream. Evan chose a place hidden by rocks and trees, where smoke from their small fire would not drift too far. Claire set up sensors while Rob kept watch. Evan observed the surroundings. Every rustle, every shadow, every movement mattered. "It is close," Evan whispered to Claire. "How do you know?" she asked. "I can feel it," Evan said. "Its presence. The way the trees bend. The way the wind moves. It is patient. It is waiting. Create. I. Oat. That night, the forest was alive with quiet tension. Distant roars echoed, and small sounds that Evan could not identify moved through the underbrush. He stayed alert, sensing the pattern. The creature was not attacking, it was studying them. Why would it do that? Rob asked. Evan shrugged. Maybe it is curious. Maybe it is cautious. It is bigger than anything here. And even it knows danger. They slept little. Evan kept watch in turns with Rob. He noticed tiny shifts in the air and ground. His instincts told him the creature was moving closer. He could feel the vibrations under his feet. Subtle changes that others might miss. The next morning, they continued. The tracks became more defined. Evan pointed out broken branches, deep claw marks, and disturbed soil. It moves fast, he said, but it does not make mistakes. Watch the patterns. It chooses where to step. Claire scanned again. The readings are confusing. It does not match anything I know. It is almost like it is hiding its energy, masking its presence. Evan nodded. It is intelligent. It knows we can detect it. It adapts. They reached a narrow canyon. The walls were steep, and the path was treacherous. Rocks were loose. Evan paused, studying the terrain. He could see the creature's tracks, leading up one side of the canyon. We should go around, Rob said. It is dangerous here. Evan shook his head. We go carefully. I see safe spots. Follow me. He led them slowly, pointing out where to step, how to balance on the rocks, and where to avoid. Every move was calculated. Rob followed, impressed despite himself. Claire was amazed by Evan's attention to detail. Even the smaller scouts noticed how calm and sure he was. As they crossed the canyon, they heard a sound, a low growl, deep and resonant. The ground seemed to vibrate. The team froze. Evan held up his hand. The sound was close. Very close. It echoed off the canyon walls. It was not a night talon. It was bigger, stronger, and smarter. Rob gritted his teeth. I do not like this, he muttered. Evan stayed calm. He studied the rocks, the shadows, the air. He could sense the creature's movements, predicting where it might appear. He noticed small signs. Broken branches higher up, scratches on rocks, displaced soil. It was moving carefully, watching, learning. Stay calm, Evan whispered. It is aware of us. Do not panic. We move slowly. We are not prey yet. The team followed his lead. Evan kept pointing out subtle signs. Where to step. Where not to look. Where the creature might strike. He guided them through the canyon like someone who had walked it hundreds of times, though it was the first time for him. After hours of careful movement, they reached a safer area. The forest opened slightly. Sunlight filtered through the canopy. Evan paused, breathing deeply. He had learned something. The creature was not mindless. It was patient, calculating, and aware of every step they took. It was not hunting. It was testing them. Rob looked at him, a mix of respect and disbelief in his eyes. You really saw all that? You knew where it would move? Evan shrugged. I can feel patterns. The forest tells you. The tracks. The ground. The air. Everything adds up, Claire smiled. You are incredible. I have never seen anyone notice so much, so fast. Evan shook his head. I am still learning. I just watch more than others. They made camp again. Evan chose another hidden spot, careful to avoid open areas. He collected dry branches, checked the fire, and observed the shadows. He noticed the night talon's tracks. They were absent. Not a single one passed nearby. Even the apex predators were avoiding this area. They know it is dangerous, Evan said. Even they do not go here. Rob nodded. understanding the gravity of Evan's words. Claire looked at him, amazed. Evan, the quiet apprentice, was leading them through territory no one dared to enter. He was small, young, inexperienced in years, but his mind and instincts were sharper than anyone else's. As night fell, they heard movement, rustling in the underbrush, low growls, snapping branches. Evan felt the presence near them. He did not panic. He observed, read the signs, and prepared. The creature was testing them, waiting to see if they were weak. Evan knew one thing. Understanding the unknown was more powerful than fighting it blindly. If they moved carefully, thought clearly, and observed every detail, they might survive. The first real encounter was coming. The ridge stalker, the massive unknown predator, was near, and Evan, the apprentice who everyone underestimated, was ready to face it with patience, intelligence, and careful observation. The forest was quiet but alive, full of tension and anticipation, and Evan led the team forward, step by step, into the danger that others feared. Evan led the team deeper into the outer valleys. The forest was darker now. Sunlight barely touched the ground, twisted trees created long shadows, and strange sounds echoed from unseen places. Every step felt heavy, and every rustle made the scouts stop and listen. The tracks of the ridge stalker grew clearer. Huge claw marks pressed into the soft soil. Broken branches lay scattered as if something massive had moved carefully but forcefully. Evan crouched to study them. "It is clever," he said softly. "It chooses where to step. It does not rush. It thinks before acting." Rob frowned. "I have never seen anything like this. Predators don't act like this. They attack. They hunt. They do not plan every step." Evan nodded. "This one is not normal. It is smart. It watches us, tests us." Claire checked her sensors again. "The readings are unusual. I can't identify it. It is hiding its energy somehow, almost like it knows we are tracking it." Evan studied the air and the ground. He noticed changes no one else did. Tiny vibrations, subtle shifts in wind, and broken moss that showed the creature's path. He could feel it moving around them, keeping distance, but always observing. "Stay close," Evan whispered. "Do not make sudden movements. Follow me." "Follow me." They moved carefully. Every step Evan guided was deliberate. He pointed out small obstacles, safe rocks, and branches that could break if stepped on. He avoided open areas where they could be easily seen. Rob and the other scouts followed closely, impressed and cautious. After hours of careful tracking, they reached a small clearing. Sunlight filtered through the tall trees, but the shadows were still deep and long. The forest felt silent now. Unnaturally silent. No birds, no small animals, nothing stirred. Even the wind seemed weaker here. "This is strange," Rob said quietly. "Not a single night talon around. They usually roam here." Evan nodded. "They know it is dangerous. Even they stay away from this valley." The team paused, scanning the area. Evan crouched and observed subtle clues. Crushed leaves, broken branches, and huge paw prints pressed into the mud. The ridge stalker had passed through here recently. "We are close," Evan said. "Be ready. It will appear soon." They moved slowly, following the tracks into a narrow canyon. The walls were steep, covered in moss and jagged rocks. The path was difficult, and rocks threatened to slip under their feet. Evan pointed out safe spots. "Look here," he whispered. "Step here. Avoid that rock. It will hold your weight poorly," Rob muttered. "Amazing. You know every step." Evan did not reply. He was focused. Every sound mattered. Every shadow mattered. He felt the creature's presence growing stronger. It was nearby, moving carefully, watching. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed. A branch snapped under the ridge stalker's weight. It had appeared just above them on a rocky ledge, massive, taller than a man, with thick armored scales and long claws. Its eyes glowed faintly in the shadow. The team froze. Rob gritted his teeth. Claire gasped. Even Evan felt a surge of tension. But he stayed calm. He studied the creature's movements. It was not attacking, it was observing. "Stay still," Evan whispered. "Do not move. Let it see us without fear." The ridge stalker tilted its head, sniffing the air. Its massive claws dug into the rock, leaving deep marks. It was cautious, intelligent, and aware. Evan noticed that it moved differently from normal predators. It calculated each step. It did not rush. "Why isn't it attacking?" Rob whispered. Evan shrugged. "It is curious. It is testing us. It is not hunting yet." The ridge stalker let out a low growl, vibrating through the canyon. The sound was deep and resonant, shaking the ground slightly. The scouts felt it in their bones. Rob's hand moved to his weapon, but Evan held up his hand, signaling him to wait. "Do not threaten it," Evan said quietly. "We do not need to fight." Claire scanned with her device. Its energy readings are off the charts, but irregular. It is hiding, or controlling what we can detect. Evan nodded. "It knows we are here. It is aware of every step we take. Move carefully if we advance." They crept forward, keeping their movements slow and deliberate. Evan noticed the ridge stalker limping slightly. A closer look revealed a metal shard embedded in its armored flank. The creature was wounded. It moved carefully, not just because of the scouts, but because of pain. "Look," Evan whispered to the team. "It is hurt. That shard is not natural. It is from a machine." Rob looked closer. "A mining drone, maybe. The rival species that mines the outer valleys? They could have injured it." Evan nodded. "Yes. It did not come here to attack. It is defending itself, or escaping danger. It is only here because it was forced." Claire checked her scanner. "I can confirm. The shard is artificial. It is part of a drone, likely from automated mining. The crash might have wounded it and driven it into human territory." www. Evan crouched, observing. "We can help it. If we are careful, we can remove the shard. It will not attack if we approach calmly." Rob raised an eyebrow. "You really think we can get close?" Evan nodded. "I have to try. It will listen if we do not threaten it. It knows the forest better than we do." We moved slowly and gently. The team prepared. Evan led, signaling them where to step. Each movement was deliberate, quiet. The ridge stalker watched, blinking slowly, its massive eyes glowing faintly. The scouts held their breath, careful not to provoke it. Evan stepped forward. He crouched, reaching carefully for the shard. The creature flinched slightly, but did not attack. Evan noticed the pain it must feel, and moved even slower. The shard was lodged deep, and Evan had to be precise. "Steady," he whispered. "Almost there." With careful hands, Evan removed the shard. The ridge stalker growled softly, then sniffed him. It was wary, but did not strike. Evan stood slowly, keeping his movements calm. The creature tilted its head, observing him, understanding that he meant no harm. Rob let out a quiet breath. "Incredible. It did not attack." Claire nodded. "It trusts you. Somehow." Evan smiled slightly. "It is not trust yet. It is cautious understanding. It knows I am not a threat." They guided the ridge stalker carefully, moving it away from the human settlement. Evan led, showing the safest paths. The creature followed, moving slowly, avoiding sudden movements. Even Rob was impressed by the calm control Evan had over the situation. As they moved, Evan noticed something remarkable. The night talon's tracks reappeared nearby. Normally aggressive predators, they were avoiding the ridge stalker. Even apex predators respected its presence. Evan realized the truth. The ridge stalker commanded respect in this forest, and he had become part of that understanding. They know it is dangerous, Evan whispered. Even they step aside. Claire watched in awe. Rob muttered under his breath. The forest seemed alive with tension. Animals were silent. Predators avoided them. And the ridge stalker moved with calculated intelligence. Evan felt a surge of pride, though he remained humble. He was still learning, still an apprentice in many ways. Hours passed. They guided the creature to a safer area, where it could rest and recover. The ridge stalker lowered its massive head, blinking slowly. It was still wary, but calmer. Evan studied its behavior carefully, noting every movement, every response. He understood that patience, observation, and calm presence had allowed him to face a creature that others feared. "We did it," Claire whispered. "You guided it. You calmed it." Evan shook his head. "We did it together. I only watch. The forest teaches. The creature responds." Rob grunted. "Still incredible. I have never seen an apprentice do what you just did." Evan looked at the ridge stalker, now resting peacefully. He felt something inside him change. He was no longer just a boy learning to survive. He was someone who could understand creatures, the forest, and the dangers of Red Ridge in ways others could not. As night fell, they made camp nearby, watching the ridge stalker rest. Evan remained alert, studying the shadows, listening to the wind, and feeling the rhythm of the forest. He had faced the unknown, and he had learned that understanding and patience could be stronger than weapons or brute force. The outer valleys were quiet again. The night talons avoided the area. Small creatures returned slowly, sensing safety. Evan, the apprentice, had walked with a creature feared by all, and it had not attacked. Instead, it had recognized him, if only in small ways, as someone who did not belong to the threat, but to understanding. He knew this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead. The valley still held unknown dangers, and Red Ridge still demanded caution and respect. But Evan felt ready. Not because he was stronger or faster, but because he understood more than anyone else in the team. And in that moment, the quiet apprentice felt something shift. He was no longer just learning. He was becoming a part of the forest, a part of the valley, and someone who could face the unknown without fear. The ridge stalker rested nearby, wounded but alive, a silent testament to Evan's patience and understanding. And Evan, the boy who everyone underestimated, had proven that even in a world full of danger, observation, intelligence, and calm could triumph over fear. The team watched quietly, knowing that what had just happened would change how they saw not only Evan but the forest itself. The apprentice had grown beyond what anyone expected, and the valley had taken notice.